Right, it is that time of the week again for the Footy Accumulators betting show with three people whose record at picking successful accas is as good as my grand's. I'm Will Perry, he's Alan McInally, this guy's James Vickers. Lock us in the tower and throw away the key. We are pathetic and we hold our hands up. We'll get to that later. Firstly, though, we've got to start, boys, with the news coming out of the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Manchester City cleared, going to play in the Champions League. Just a little fine, Alan. Go and pay your 10 million euros. Did you see that one coming?
I think because we think of Man City as a powerhouse and a financial powerhouse, that they'd be happy to pay any fine rather than the ban, then maybe not that surprised. The only thing is, you have to remember, it's not a court of law. Court of Arbitration for Sport is like a middleman, and they're having to try and get UEFA and Man City to agree on something in the middle, and that's what they've managed to do. And there's no question, by the way, this is a wonderful, wonderful result for Manchester City. The connection with them in Etihad is for lawyers, not for us. We just expect, them to. The reason why this has come up, and I'm sorry to go around the house, is that I always thought that Man City owner basically owns Etihad, and he's given himself money as sponsorship for the season, and obviously they've tried to prove that that's not the case, as well as these leaked emails that's maybe went in Man City's favour. But listen, this is a fab result for Man City.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, James, let's let Alan get into all the intricacies of it and get him in a jail somewhere in Abu Dhabi, and we'll stay nice and safe. But look, as Al says, it's huge, James, isn't it? Bearing in mind the implications it would have had on big players leaving. Pep Guardiola said no matter what, he was going to stay next season, and it remains to be seen if he stays any further than that. But had they been kicked out for 2 years, you would have had the likes of De Bruyne or Sterling and Aguero thinking, hold on a second, do we want to hang around for this?
Yeah, definitely. And we touched on last week as well about the need for City to strengthen in key areas over the summer. So I think that would have impacted them over the next few years as well. What sort of is going through my head at the moment is it's going to make that race for the top four even more interesting than it already was. There was, talk of fifth getting Champions League, so the likes of Wolves and Sheffield United looking at aiming for fifth. And there's going to be that real onus now on especially Chelsea United and Leicester, who are sort of flipping between themselves as who are in that top four. Really fighting to get in. So I'm quite excited now, weirdly, for the top four race. Now it is back to a top four Champions League race. I think going back to City, though, yeah, it's massive for them. Obviously, I don't think money would be an issue for City, but attracting that calibre of players to build a squad for in 2 years' time would have been a bit more difficult for them. Obviously, the draws there already with Guardiola and the facilities that they have, but it's a huge sort of weight off their shoulders.
Yeah, I'll tell you what would be the final kick in the teeth, Al, for UEFA is Manchester City go to Lisbon in August and go and win the Champions League in an empty stadium and then defend it next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Every chance of it as well. So, as I say, great news for Man City. They've managed to prove with UEFA, they've come to a middle ground, and it's cost them 10 million euros and obviously pay their lawyers, and everybody's quite happy. There'll be other teams, naturally, they'll be thinking, oh, hang on a minute, I can't believe City have got away with it. But to be absolutely honest with you, and I know everybody has to be squeaky clean, but I'm delighted that Man City are in the Champions League. You want the best teams in Europe in the Champions League all playing against each other. And for all those citizens you call yourself? Is it citizens? Well,
yeah, but a nickname that no one ever uses, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if they ever use. I don't even know why I come up with that. They will be absolutely cartwheeling all over Manchester right now.
Yeah, and what would make it spicy, James, and look, we're doing this ahead of Manchester United, Southampton, and then they could go into the top four United, and obviously Leicester losing and Chelsea sort of floundering as well. But you could have a situation now, it's just going to be four teams where United don't quite make it because of the Champions League ruling.
Oh, can you imagine that in Manchester? I'm living in Manchester. I've got family that are United fans, family that are City fans. All my mates are United and City, so I'd have to sign out of my group chats and stuff. I think it would be unbearable for a few weeks if that did happen.
Right, let's talk about Leicester because they are a team that would have had their eyes on this news, wouldn't they? They would have been hoping, look, come on, let's have five teams because they might be able to get fifth. For the first time this season, Alan, Champions League football not in their hands. I was at the Vitality for the game on Sunday. Couldn't believe what I was seeing. 1-0 up in complete control. When you look at their slump, though, since the restart, and when you go back to actually New Year's Day, since New Year's Day, they've played 14 games in the Premier League. They've won just 3. Palace, Villa, West Ham. 6 defeats.
Well,
Are they going to get Champions League, do you think?
well, on that, no. On that, quite simply, well, no chance. I mean, I watched the game. Of course, I did. First half, I thought they were relatively in control, to be honest, and I got from Bournemouth what thought I was going to get from Bournemouth. No real cutting edge, and Eddie scratching his head a little bit. And there's points in games, and just every now and again, you need a little bit of lady luck, and the sending off helped brilliantly, and all of a sudden, Dominic Solanke stole somebody's boots that puts the ball in the back of the net, and all of a sudden he's a goal scorer again. Great news for Bournemouth, my goodness, but Leicester, we're not talking about Bournemouth, but Leicester are not in a slump, but we talk about confidence in players, and I didn't see a particularly confident team in the second half, and I think that's what Brendan Rodgers will be worried most about, that I think for such a long time, and that stat you just gave me is unbelievable, 14 games, you've won 3. That is not top 4 football for Leicester City.
James, those Leicester fans would be absolutely gutted to miss out, wouldn't they? Because they've been up there for that amount of time, and it seems that the lockdown, as it has done to a lot of other teams, has knocked the momentum right out of them. But they were sliding before that as well, weren't they? And to be having their eyes on second at one stage and think, hold on, we can get above City, and let's not forget they were in the title race around Christmas. To then miss out would be devastating.
Yeah, I think if I was a Leicester fan, I'd be gutted at the moment. I think you mentioned there since New Year's Day, they've really sort of slumped off. I think if you look at their squad, players like Maddison, for example, started the season so well, which was sort of key for them, challenging in the sort of the top 1 or 2 for the first half of the season. I think what they've had is they've had too many players go out of form at the same time. And I look at Leicester, their starting 11 I'm a big fan of, but I just don't see that strength in depth to maintain a sort of title or top 4 challenge. I think a massive loss for them has been Ricardo Pereira getting injured as well. I think that was just before the lockdown, and I'm not surprised that they've been a bit shaky at the back since the lockdown. I think he's a fantastic player, and we're talking about Tottenham and Arsenal and teams like that needing to sign a new right back last week. And, if Leicester miss out, there's a great example of a player who's fantastic in the Premier League. Will he be the same after a cruciate injury? Don't know. But I think he's been a huge loss for them. And I think, for Leicester, I thought they would be there or thereabouts at the start of the season. I think, as I said, just too many players out of form at the same time, and it's really cost them having to heavily rely on Vardy to sort of single-handedly carry them through games at times.
And Brendan Rodgers was quite damning, actually, Al, after the game. He said for the first time, that's the only time I've been let down by these boys. He said they were too soft, lacked responsibility, very, very disappointing. And in his words, nowhere near Champions League level. Look, Leicester have always been a club, haven't they, where they've had the best players pipped, stolen by the vultures over the years. And they were starting to build as well. And they will hope that if they don't get Champions League, that they don't lose the likes of Maddison, Chilwell, which seems kind of ominous, doesn't it? The likes of Soyuncu, just as they build up someone like Maguire, United come in for him. That they want to build and they want to have another crack next year.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that money wouldn't really seem to be a problem for Leicester City. But psychologically, in some of these players that you've already mentioned, they probably still see the likes of Man City and Man United, etc., as bigger teams than Leicester City, even though Leicester might somehow still end up in a top 4. They've got a whacking game coming up at home against Sheffield United, because Sheffield United are in decent form, and they're coming off the back of a drubbing at Bournemouth, regardless finishing with 10 men and all. What's a game that's going to be? But there'll be a couple of players right now. See, of all the things you said there about form and no fight and a lack of desire, when players lose confidence, you lose some of those as well, It's like you have to have a real strength in character when your team is up against it to still give 100% and fight for every ball, etc., etc. At the moment in time, I wouldn't say it's like a house of cards and everything's toppling down, but there's a couple of falling over and they need to properly get them back up again. And that's Brendan Rodgers' job. Brendan's job is to sit them down and say, hey guys, seriously, have a look at yourself in the mirror here. And if you can tell me you're the same player you were in November, December and January, then I'll hold my hand up and say, great. Otherwise, you're not doing enough, and you certainly are not doing enough right now for Leicester City. This is a huge end to the season for Leicester. And like I say, the game come up against Sheffield United. You've got to win that one, Leicester.
Yeah, there are 3 remaining games: Sheffield United, Tottenham and Manchester United. What a final day that could be at the King Power Stadium. And, you'd imagine United would be above them at that stage as well. So on the count to 3, thumbs up if you think Leicester are going to be in Champions League places at the end of the season, or thumbs down if they're going to miss out? 1, 2, 3. Oof. 3 thumbs. Sorry about that, Leicester fans. Hope you prove us wrong. Right, on to the nap challenge. James Vickers has pulled ahead once again, 6-5, leading the way after picking a winner with Leeds at Swansea in the Championship, and Alan went for Arsenal in the North London derby. Right, boys.
You let me down badly, by the way, Will. Jeez, was 1-0 up in ours, seriously.
I think we all thought Arsenal were going to do better than they did, didn't they? But fair play to Spurs. Right, what you boys sticking your 20 quid on this week to trigger your £5 free bet and start your bet streak on the Betfair exchange? You're choosing from, what do we say? What fixtures are we picking from?
Wednesday and Thursday we went for.
Thank you, James. Wednesday and Thursday. And as you're leading, you're up first, James, as always.
Yeah, it was a bit weird last week going second. I've managed to pull back ahead. I'm going to go Southampton to beat Brighton. Brighton, big fan of what Graham Potter's doing there. That defeat by Man City, though, at the weekend, pretty heavy for them. I think they're safe from relegation now, so players potentially have one eye on the beach. Southampton been in great form since the resumption of the Premier League. I think the only defeat they've had has been the game against Arsenal. Great result against City a couple of weeks ago. Went to Everton, got a point as well. And they've picked up sort of key wins against teams that were around them and ease those relegation fears that they've had. So I expect them to do the same against Brighton. As I said, Brighton, not too much to play for now. And Southampton been at home, I think, gives them the edge. I'm going to go them. Bit of an iffy one, but as I said, I like to give Alan a chance to get back into it with games running out. So I'll stick my neck on the line. But yeah, Southampton for me.
There it is. There's the line. I'll stick my neck on the line. I was waiting for that. Hey, look, they both have their eyes on the beach because they're probably about half a mile from the beach, both clubs, aren't they? And I tell you what, Brighton, Al, just before you do yours, probably think we'd quite like, maybe not need, we'd quite like at least one more point with what's happened with Villa and Bournemouth winning. And, the 1 point would do it, wouldn't it, really? But 36, they might be looking behind them a little bit still.
Yeah, I think so. No question about that. But this is the line we're going to use. I've just realised it'll be 6-6 when we do this again. Because I don't think Southampton will beat Brighton for the simple reason I think that they need exactly that. Well, I think that'll be their mindset. Not necessarily they think they're not going, they're going to win the game, but certainly not get beaten. A point should be enough. Everybody won, didn't they? So Bournemouth won, Villa won, West Ham won, Watford won. Quite incredible. So they will be looking over the shoulder a little bit. But yes, there's no question it will be 6-6 because I'm going to go for Nottingham Forest to beat Swansea. So, and Forest still need a little bit more, I think. Swansea have done okay, but Forest will beat Swansea. 75, big price. Thank you, James. 6-6 it will be.
Okay, there we go. You've heard it here first. Brighton at Southampton for James, and Forest at home to Swansea in the Championship for Mr. McAnally. Remember, if you're looking for additional stats and trends ahead of this week's Premier League and Championship, go and check out the Footy Accumulators Betting Hub app. Have a look at the Smart Acca function. Remember, you've got to be 18 plus to bet, and please gamble responsibly. On to the match in focus this week, West Ham against Watford. What a fixture that is on Friday night. Incredible game, really. When you think, look, let's face it, James, whoever wins that's safe.
Yep, I think so. I was having a look compared to where their managers came in, because they both came in and around the same time, sort of middle of December, and Watford were 19th at the time and West Ham was 17th. So neither managers really had too much of an impact in terms of getting them to safety. I'd say Pearson a bit more so at Watford, considering they were 6 points adrift and they're now outside the relegation zone. But yeah, I agree with you. Whoever wins that, I think, is safe. Whoever loses, alarm bells ringing there, especially if Villa or Bournemouth get something from their games respectively. So massive game. We're into that sort of part of the season now where, as a Preston fan, I thankfully don't have to worry about it anymore, where those relegations point has become, really exciting to watch and throws up some great drama. So yeah, I'm fully expecting a good game. Neither team particularly solid at the back. They're okay going forward, so I'd expect a few goals. But yeah, I think whoever wins probably will stay up now. Take an absolute disaster in the last two games for them to go down if they did win it. But yeah, I wouldn't like to call it. Probably say West Ham just because they have the home advantage and the sort of the forwards that they have at their disposal. But yeah, it's going to be an incredibly tight game and one I'm looking forward to. Hey,
Al, look, David Moyes well. Everyone in Scotland knows everyone, don't they?
Yeah.
But Basically, that's the rule. That's
Yeah.
probably racist. We can't say that, but I'll take that back. Hey, listen.
Sorry, I'll say it for you. Don't worry. Yeah, we all live next to each other.
When he came in, I remember the quote. It was a powerful quote. Do you remember it when he sat down for his first press conference and he said, "Look, that's what I do. Win." And then obviously, over the last few months, we pulled out his win percentage and it was down at like 17% or whatever it was. But he has to be given huge credit if he keeps them up, and he's done it once before with obviously the lockdown, which everyone's had in between, but with everything that's been going on at that club.
Listen, if you're Scottish and you're a football person, then the only one thing you actually think about is, I ain't getting beaten. I want to win everything I play in. And David struggled a little bit at the beginning. I think, well, the beginning was good actually. Then obviously the lockdown, etc. You've got to say the result in scoring 4 goals and Mikel Antonio getting 4 is massive for Moisey. I think I would put it down more, Will, to rather than I want to win and I expect to win, but the big games I'll make sure I win, and this is huge. I don't know whether home advantage will be the thing that James is talking about. And I know obviously what you mean, James, but that might just kind of suit Watford as well, because obviously them bagging a 2-1 victory against, was it Newcastle they played the other day, is also an injection for the arm for all of them. It will be a huge game. The winner stays up. It's as simple as that. I mean, a point each might be enough for them to stay up. But I'm going to go on West Ham side, just the way I know Moisey, the way his training will be. And I'll tell you something, the boys will be fed up watching videos of Watford, and they will know what time they go to the toilet in the morning, what time they go to their bed, when they're eating for their dinner. They'll make sure they go in there with everything they know about every player. And a 4-goal result for West Ham is a massive injection in the arm for West Ham. Absolutely no question about it. But it's a toughie to call. I mean, I think you guys already know I have a huge respect for Watford and the manager. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And if he leaves there, I think he'll get another job, a good job, a big job, because he's that good. But this is a hard one to call. But I suppose I need to throw the saltire in and give it's West Ham for me, because Moisey's Scottish.
Yeah, well, look, and Pearson has done a great job, hasn't he? Given that where they were with Quique Sanchez Flores and having 3 coaches in the season, they had Javi Gracia at the beginning of the year as well, didn't they? So the bottom 3 as it stands: Bournemouth, Villa, and Norwich. Norwich already down, of course. Are we still sticking with those bottom 3, or does anyone think that either Watford or West Ham is going to replace Bournemouth or Villa?
I think the only team that I could see potentially getting out of it is Villa, just because of that win at the weekend was absolutely massive for them. During midweek, they go away to Everton, who've been a bit hit and miss at times, and I think that win will sort of lift them. I can't see Bournemouth getting out of it, even though they have that great result against Leicester. I think they've left themselves too much to do. Villa potentially, but they can have a great result, Villa, and then follow it up with 1 or 2 shocking performances. So I'd say that bottom 3 probably will stay as it is. Obviously Norwich are gone. Bournemouth and Villa probably left themselves a bit too much to do, but I think Villa out of the 2 that are in there at the moment would be the one potentially who could claw it back.
Al, I tell you what though, when you look at Bournemouth's fixtures, and maybe this is just dreamland, but after that win against Leicester, of course Manchester City, so they can write that one off and stay on 31. Yeah. But then they've got Southampton at home, local derby. Southampton's safe. They could win that quite easily, couldn't they? And Everton away. You never know what you're going to get with Everton. They could get 6 points out of 9, and 6 points out of 9 might be enough.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think it's a toughie, obviously. An unfortunate fixture to be playing Manchester City next. And for that simple reason, if you think they can beat Everton, then that's, of course, Aston Villa's next game, which is at Goodison.
And let me throw into that one as well. Of course, last day of the season, West Ham, Aston Villa.
Oh, man, I was about to say Villa's last 3 games as well, and the last game is just quite incredible. Listen, I don't want to see my old team go down, but watching the other day was a brilliant result. Trezeguet bags up a couple. Samatta, I don't think he's good enough. With the greatest respect to Dean, we bringing the players in that he's brought in. I've told everybody about this boy Konza, and I think he's going to be fantastic. I think he's one of the pluses big time. McGinn seems to be getting back to something. He didn't play brilliant, but he was involved in a lot of stuff in the middle of the park that Villa need. Up top, we're struggling up top, and I think that's going to be a massive problem for us, especially against Everton and especially against West Ham. I've just forgotten the middle game. What's Villa's last 3 games?
Arsenal at home is the middle.
Arsenal at home, correct. You're absolutely right. Which is a real toughie as well. So it might genuinely go down to the last game, but I'm unconvinced, although Villa had a brilliant result, that the last game is even going to count. I think Bournemouth, unfortunately, with this game against City, the last 2 games, you're right, it's hard to rule them out because you just think anything can happen. Look at the game at the weekend. My goodness. Who thinks they're going to score 4 goals, for God's sake, Bournemouth? But they did. But I'm unfortunately going to have to say, and I haven't said this very often, and at the very beginning of the season I said there's no way Villa would go down. But I think the bottom 3 are there for a reason. A, because they can't score goals. And too many times, the odd good performance is not enough to stay in the division, mate. So, unfortunately, I'm going to go, the 3 that are there right now, unfortunately, will be playing in the Championship.
Right, because we're so pathetic at these accas, I'm clutching at straws. I'm just going to throw in another bet. Let's just build a bet for this game at the London Stadium on Friday night. I think West Ham are going to win, but I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll split it into 3. So, Al, you can pick the score. I'll pick a scorer, not particularly first scorer, but a scorer. And then, James, why don't you have a go at someone who's going to pick up a card? And I'm already thinking Troy Deeney, Issa Diop. I'll leave that one with you. Anyway, I'll go for a scorer. I'll kick us off. And I'm going to say, after his 4 goals at Norwich, I'm going to go Mikel Antonio, anytime scorer.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
I think so. Yeah, I am. For sure.
Let's let Al have a think about the score while James comes up with someone who's going to be carded at the London Stadium.
Yeah, I've got 2 in my head. I think looking at, obviously, Issa Diop that you mentioned there, most yellow cards for West Ham this season with 8. Bit of an outsider, but I say that loosely. He's got 7 yellow cards this season, and if he's coming up against Ismail Sarr on the right wing for Watford, I'd be looking at Aaron Cresswell with the trickery and pace that Sarr has. I think he'll cause them problems on the break, and I can see Cresswell adding to those 7 yellow cards he's got. So toss up between Diop and Cresswell. I'm going to go Cresswell just because of who he'll potentially be marking. And I can see, Watford trying to hit West Ham on the counter-attack as the away team. So, Cresswell is the person to be carded. Okay.
Al, what are you thinking for a score?
I like that shout, by the way, because I bet yesterday both fullbacks to be booked for Spurs and Davis and, what's his name, got booked. Aurier, Serge Aurier, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with you. I think West Ham, I just think after that result, it's such a toughie to call. And I don't want, like I say, I quite like Watford. I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. I mean, it's going to be tighter than a submarine's door, but I just think probably.
What, Red Octobers or which one?
Yeah, exactly. I think West Ham 2-1. I think both teams to score. And I like your Antonio and I like Cresswell. I wouldn't be surprised. Is Decore? What's Decore's yellow cards like? I don't know. I'll go 2-1, and I'm happy with Antonio and I'm happy with Cresswell.
Okay, there we go. Right, West Ham to beat Watford 2-1. Mikel Antonio to score any time, and Aaron Cresswell to pick up a yellow card. And that moves us on to the acca, if we have to. I'm sorry to the nation again. We're doing this, of course, ahead of Manchester United against Southampton, which was one of our 4 picks in the acca. But the other 3 went absolutely west, didn't they? They went nowhere. Liverpool, Preston, and West Brom all draw.
Preston, James. Preston.
I think you jinxed us, personally.
Did you see the chance they had near the end of the game to win it as well?
Yeah, I went and grabbed another few beers out the fridge.
and Liverpool had about 97 shots, didn't they? And didn't beat Burnley.
Yeah, they did that.
Wow. Anyway, we're making excuses. Okay, so we're using the fixtures for the acca from Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, with some William Hill odds thrown in as well. So I'll kick us off. City against Bournemouth. I think, we're not gonna be millionaires after this one, but let's just play it safe. City to beat Bournemouth, and then how about in the Championship? I never nearly dip into the Championship, but Leeds. I just think that Leeds Barnsley, huge for Barnsley, of course, as well. But Leeds, I mean, they're already there, aren't they? That would be the celebration party. Leeds at Ellen Road against Barnsley, local derby.
Yeah, definitely, and I quite like the City one anyway, because you're expecting City, after the good news today, to just keep things going for sure.
Okay, what are you boys thinking?
James?
I'm going to go... So every time I've bet on United so far since the restart, they've won me a bit of money if I've just had them on. So I'm going to stick with United. Away at Palace, booster rod slightly been away from home. Palace been in really bad form. I think they've lost 8 in a row. I think the stat was when I was watching the Villa game at the weekend. So ending the season really poorly. Wilfried Zaha looks a shadow of himself at the moment. United flying, so I'd be confident putting United on if you two are happy with that.
Yeah, I am. By the way, I know this is a side issue. Do you think he'll stay at Palace, James Zaha?
Depending what money they want, I could see him going to an Everton or someone like that.
I don't think to come up with a team I think he would go to, actually.
Or maybe a Tottenham, if they were looking in the forward areas if Kane went, potentially. But yeah, I think he'd probably have a chance of leaving in the summer.
Well, do you know what?
Sorry, Will.
Go on.
I was just saying, sorry, Will, just to throw one in there. I was thinking about that when I was watching the game, and I was like, he's better than that, anyway.
Well, just so the Crystal Palace fans don't turn up at your residence, James, they've lost 5 on the bounce, 8, and before that they won 4 on the spin. So let's just lock your doors.
That's it. James, that's the reason that none of them. That's the reason that none of them would turn up, because 5 in the bounce is a nightmare, by the way. Anyway, right, okay. So we're going to have United at Palace, City at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Leeds at home to Barnsley, and I'll kill us with Liverpool at Arsenal.
Okay, Liverpool at Arsenal, right? What's that?
I can't have Arsenal after the game against. I can't have Arsenal after the game against Spurs. No chance. And incidentally, remember, as much as Liverpool are the champions, and he says, I don't really care about the points. Trust me, he wants over 100 points.
And they're up against it now, aren't they? After a draw against Burnley, they need as many as they can get. What's that looking like, James?
So that comes out at 3-1 on William Hill in my magic calculator.
Okay, it is a magic. It's not so magic recently, though, is it? We need to sprinkle some magic on that calculator. Look, just finally on the subject of Wilfried Zaha, that just made me think, because obviously the Premier League is still trying to decide whether they go with this 5 substitute rule into the new season, and obviously the drinks breaks, which seems to upset a lot of people. I'm not too bothered about the drinks break. I find it, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's quite an interesting tactical break, especially when you can see a coach get in there. It's a bit like an NFL. Does it slow the game down? Probably, but the 5 subs. The issue with that, with someone like Zaha, is that someone could buy Zaha, a top team, a top 6 team, and potentially say to him, okay, well, look, you'll still make 30 appearances a season, not starts, but you'll make 30 appearances because we can make 5 subs. It really helps the teams like City, like United, like your Liverpools, even your Leicesters, the big squads. They can bring in those bigger players, and it really will hinder the smaller clubs, won't it? That they can have their best players taken away, and still they're not going to be starting every game for a new club. What do you think about that, Al?
I think you're spot on. I don't like the 5 subs. I can understand the reason why we've got it on at the moment. But the size of your squad is hugely determinable by how many players you can change in a game. Because if you have got real quality on the bench, then it gives you an unfair advantage, I think. The drinks break is ridiculous in the first half. I mean, I can remember 20 minutes ago, and I liked the drinks break. And I can see the drinks break in the second half still being there. I don't really mind that. 3 subs is absolutely tons. The drinks break after 22 minutes is a joke. But the one in the second half would add to the spice of the game to give a manager, it's really just a tactical shuffle or talk to the players. I don't know if I don't mind that. I think that kind of adds a little bit of, I think it gives you, obviously the managers would be delighted to speak to the players 22, 23 minutes before the end of the game, depending on how it goes. 3 subs is tons. The drinks break in the second half, I could live with.
Yeah, well, James just had his own little drinks break there in the middle of that as well. Right, well, that
remains. Drinking beer already, Will, before the weekend.
And it's only 5:00 in the morning. Right, great to see you too. Remember, if you're looking for those additional stats and trends ahead of this week's action in the Premier League and the Championship, go and download the Footy Accumulators Betting Hub app. Check out the Smart acca function. Remember, you've got to be 18 plus to bet. And please gamble responsibly. Time for another drinks break. See you next time.